Welcome everybody back to the Diagonal Media series, where we talk to people on this show we call the In Crowd, our speaker series with creators that are in the film, TV, and media industries. And today we have Rob Grabow. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Blake. Hey, nice to see you.
Rob, you are a filmmaker, you are a director, you're a writer, you are an actor.
Yeah.
Tell us more about yourself.
All those things. I started a couple of companies in college. I was a finance major. Then I went to Columbia for International Affairs. And then after that, I went back to get my MFA in acting at the Actor Studio Drama School. And then I kind of got into filmmaking from there. And so we just finish my first feature film called The Year of the Dog. It came out and I wrote it, co-directed it, produced it, and then was one of the lead actors. But the dog was kind of the real star, but I was like his sidekick in it. And that's my background.
You pick.
Right.
I'm not going to give away too much of the story today about your film, The Year of the Dog. I think everybody should go check it out. It's available on Amazon Prime to rent or buy. And where else, Rob? Where else can people find the film?
Basically, anywhere there's TVOD, like transactional video on demand. So iTunes, Google Play, Dish, Xfinity, wherever people rent or buy movies on streaming.
Amazing. Well, I did watch the movie. It's very close to my heart. There's a lot of universal themes.
Yeah.
And dogs. I mean, I have a dog. The dog used in the film is incredible. The actors that you cast, the scenes, the kind of locations you found as well. I'm just curious about so much. What would you think, like, after doing it? What's the biggest thing you learned?
That making a movie is really difficult, and the distribution side of it even more so, and that rescue dogs are the most amazing thing on the planet. I think those are three things I learned. Our lead dog in the film, Caleb, is his real life name. He's a rescue, and he had been passed between homes because people kept saying he was too much dog and he was too energetic. And so we ended up adopting him, and it was exactly those qualities that made him so wonderful on screen. And I think it's just a good reminder that sometimes the things that people pass over and other human beings and animals are the things that have kind of this amazing kind of gold in them.
So that's your dog?
No, he ultimately got adopted by a group in California, where he now does Petco commercials, and he plays with his best friend, which is a little beagle named Butch. And so he's in Southern California.
Wow, Caleb, is he a husky?
Yeah, he's a Siberian husky.
Siberian husky. And the story also centers around a character's struggle with addiction and family and friends. So you wrote the film and directed it, and you said you produced it, and you're in it. So I'm just like, how did you do that?
I mean, you just kind of trust that you can problem solve, right? I mean, this had been a story that I wanted to tell. I left acting school early because my mom was going through cancer treatment, and then they thought I had cancer during this period, and I was like, I need a break. And so I was out in the sticks in Montana, and I started writing this story that meant a lot to me personally. And then I just decided we're going to make it. And I trusted, I'd been involved in startups, and so I kind of knew the architecture of taking something that doesn't exist and bringing it into existence. And so I just worked it one step at a time, basically for 3 years now through distribution. It was just just an incredibly Everest-like learning curve all along the way for 3 years.
So, Diagonal, we're a video production company and a creative agency. And so maybe we can get a little technical. Can you tell us a bit about, the cameras that you used, or do you know about that stuff? Yeah.
I know just enough. We shot it on Red and Blackmagic were the two cameras we used. Side note, I just have to say this about Diagonal, by the way. You guys saved our butts because you cut such an absolutely amazing trailer. Like that thing has had well over 100,000 views, and I'm sure much more on various platforms, but you guys just did an amazing job, side note. So thank you.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, but we shot on Blackmagic and Red with the two cameras.
Wow, it looks amazing. And you have aerial videography in there as well.
Yeah, drones just north of Yellowstone in Montana. Yeah.
Yeah, it's epic. And so tell us about your crew a little bit. So what did your crew kind of comprise of?
But we had obviously the principal cast. So we had Michael Spears and John Proudstar, two actors from Reservation Dogs and 1923. We had Aaron Finley, who's on Broadway, currently in Moulin Rouge, who's a friend from Montana. And then Alyssa Groening was someone who didn't have any film acting experience, who came on and did an amazing job as Julie in the film. And then, we had kind of the key positions, cinematographer, co-directors, uh, DIT, sound, lights. We had our dog trainer who worked with Caleb with positive reinforcement, did an absolutely amazing job with him. So I think in all we had 18 kind of key crew members on the film.
And I guess so it looks amazing. And it's an indie film, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't have the backing of a studio. You went into it. Did you finance this yourself, or were you able to did you run a Kickstarter or anything like this?
But I mean, when you're starting a project, right, they say, hey, you should try to raise it yourself or from friends and family. And so I sold a condo I had to do the bulk of the financing for it. And then I hit up some friends and family. I was like, hey guys, you want to be involved in a movie project? And a couple of friends put in some money. And I think I financed about 80% of it. And then I had friends finance the rest of it. And it was just really cool to work with people, right, that I really liked on the financing side. So it was just thought about selling my kidney, decided I wanted to keep it. But I would have figured something out if I needed to.
Well, it looks amazing, and it looks, it looks really expensive. It looks so good. It looks like a studio movie. I mean, the way that it's filmed, the acting, all of the little nuances that you had, the locations. I mean, I think there's like 30 locations, which is incredible. Also the sound is so good. And a lot of times you'll find indie projects, they push sound off to the side, but your sound department was excellent.
And Lily and I talked about that a lot, right? If you have bad sound on a film, it will, if the sound doesn't work, it just pulls people out of the imaginary circumstance and you're kind of done, right? So sound was super important. And the guy who did our sound out of Montana has won like a local Emmy for his sound work, and he's just like exceptionally good. So we got very lucky.
So, the journey from the kind of inception of this film and thinking about it and coming up with this concept of being able to want it now to distribution. I think a lot of us see how projects come to life in the beginning stages, and we do creative ideation, and we know, we take it from, concept to delivery, but this whole distribution thing, we don't know much about. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. With an indie film, usually what happens is you go on like the festival circuits, you try to get into film festivals. And then if you get into some big ones like Toronto or Sundance or Telluride, then you get a chance at distribution. And distribution, the first tier of distribution would be like digital. So you get, ideally on Amazon or Hulu or Netflix or something like that. And then if you're really lucky, you get a chance at theatrical. And every year there's something like, I think pre-COVID, it was like 160 films a year get theatrical distribution, meaning they play in like 80 theaters or more, something like that qualifies. And after COVID, it was like 80. So only 80 films a year will get a theatrical run. And I had this dream of getting one commercial theater for 1 week so that John and Michael's performance could qualify for an Indie Spirit Award. And so we talked to a distributor in Montana, and we were able to get test screenings at 9 theaters in Montana and Idaho. And we ended up opening number 1 in 8 of those 9 theaters. And so the distributor was like, all right, well, we're going to scale this up. And we ended up opening at 100 theaters then, including like in New York at the Angelica. So we had this pretty big theatrical run across the country.
And wait, we're all going to give you a quick round of applause for that. That is huge. That's huge. The Angelica, that's amazing.
Cool. Yeah, but your trailer helped a lot with that, Blake. I'm going to tell you that because you guys got that trailer back in September, right around our test screenings, and then we actually had a big theatrical release like February 24th. And so during that time, a lot of people saw the trailer, and that helped a lot, because it really, you guys did a really, again, wonderful job capturing the heart of the film while also kind of progressing the story forward. So we got lucky, and then we also, you know, just worked really hard to try to land that theatrical release. And so then we had our theatrical, and now we're on digital. And there's, like, with digital, you go TVOD, which is transactional video on demand, where people pay to buy or rent it. And then you go subscription video on demand, where it's for free for people who like subscribe to HBO or Showtime or whatever. And then you go advertising video on demand, where it's available if people are willing to watch ads. And then you get money on the back end from ad revenue.
And yeah, that's quite a story to open up at just those 9 theaters, and then to have that 150, did you say? 150 theaters? 100 theaters that happened across the nation. That's incredible. And now you're on Prime. I hope you're bringing in some views. Pretty awesome. And so what was that journey like? You just kind of get it on Prime, and you set a price, and you just watch to see what happens after that?
Yeah, I mean, some of those things, Blake, are a little above my pay grade now that it's with the distributor. But yeah, I mean, every once in a while I'll get little updates on the numbers, you know, maybe. And can kind of
okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that. So it's with the distributor even after the theatrical release. So the distributor has the film, they're doing the theatrical release across those 100 theaters, and now they put it on the TVOD.
Yeah, in our case, we had a different distributor for theatrical than we did for digital. So we moved from our theatrical distributor to our digital distributor, and now our digital distributor licenses it out to the different streaming platforms.
And it's all shot in Montana, filmed in Montana?
All shot in Montana, like where my mom's family is from. Like, we had the church in the film is from the film A River Runs Through It. So
oh wow.
My grandfather helped build that Lutheran church like the early 1900s, I think. And so it was like, there's a lot of family connection too to, you know, parts of the story, which was cool. It was a nice like aspect of it.
And so how do you direct while you're in a scene with other actors in that same scene?
So on set, I mean, a lot of my directing work came beforehand in setting up the shots, and then came in during the edit. But on set, we had 2 co-directors to do exactly that. Like, we talked through what all the character arcs are kind of going to be. And my job on set was more of a producer while also acting, which is also just, you know, it was tough, because my person I'm portraying is, you know, really going through a tough time. And so I really wanted to honor what he was going through, which meant that I had to pay a lot of attention to this, you know, this kind of heavier aspect of myself that I was bringing forward for the film, but then also had to relate to everyone on set as human beings, right? And not kind of caught up in my own little internal drama as this character. And so that was really hard to kind of toggle in and out of that. And so, you know, we had these long conversations beforehand where I was like, hey, I'm going to be in character. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in this place. And so just know that when we're on set, this is a choice I have to make, you know, to make sure that I don't screw up the acting part of this film. And if we don't have that, then we don't really have a film. So we were all on the same page, and I knew most of the people well enough that I could just talk openly about that.
We do have a question from Andrea.
Yeah.
Andrea.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to know, because this all is incredible, and I mean, I'm assuming this exceeded your expectations of what the film was going to go on to do. So I was curious if there was ever a time in the process, whether it was writing, pre-production or production, where you actually thought, okay, I want to walk away from this. This is too much. This is too hard. And what were those moments?
Yeah, there were so many of those moments. Like, I remember, like, I think, so we shot 140 scenes of the film in 19 days, which meant that, and I was in like 110 scenes, I think, or 120 scenes. So each day I would be in like between 7 and 11 scenes, and we were shooting out of order. And so like in the morning, I would be like crying my eyes out. In the afternoon, it'd be like cheering and really exciting, and then crying again. So halfway through production, I remember coming home and just like borderline bawling. And my mom has a place near where we were filming, so I would just crash there at night. And I came home and I was like, I can't do this. Like I way over my head. And she wrote this like little note that she put on my door, and she's just like, I was like, I can't find the emotional truth of this guy and all this. And she wrote a note that said, act the shit out of it. And she just kept putting that on my door every day. And it was a good reminder for me. And then when we finished shooting, we had all of our footage. I was really scared on our last day of shooting. We had this big like snow scene we were shooting. And I didn't think we got the footage we needed, but we were super rushed. And so I was like, oh God, please let us have the footage. And we got to the edit and we didn't have the footage. And I was like, we can't, this is done. We're in a lot of trouble. And because we were completely out of money at that point, we couldn't reshoot it. The dog, Caleb, was down in California. There's just no way we could have reshot that scene. And I started like calling my family up and I was like, hey, could we do like a montage instead of having it film? What if we got a little clever like video, like a picture montage with stills? And like, that's a terrible idea, Rob. I was like, yeah, you're right, but I don't know what to do. And we ended up finding there were like 2 clips we had missed, and we found just enough footage to put together this final scene. But that was like 3 months of just internal panic where I was like, I wasted all my money, I wasted my friend's money, and this is like, so for me, it was like, and that went through distribution. I mean, when we had our theatrical release, we ran into a big issue at the beginning. I was like, we're not going to make it out in time. So it felt like I kind of got used to the fact that just about every day, it was something borderline catastrophic that was going to happen, that we just have to figure it out. So there were many of those moments, and I'm just now starting to feel like it's okay. Just starting to feel that way.
It was a 3-year journey, but also kind of like a lifelong journey, right? There's a lot of life in this film.
Yeah.
A lot of life story. It's beautiful. We have a question from Miguel, who's right here. Miguel asks, how long did production take versus post-production?
Production was 19 days to shoot it. Post-production, also known as Rob's Purgatory, was I think when it was all said and done, it was 10 months of post.
And then and color, and that includes color and sound mixing and
color and sound mixing and VFX. Yeah.
Okay. What kind of VFX did you have to do?
Well, so some small things like the opening scene where my character is coming out of like jail. It's actually at my hometown court, post office. So we had to change post office to courthouse, the masthead. Then we had the VFX in bricks because we have these weight pulling scenes, and we didn't get the right number of bricks on the sled. So it was like 3 months of just colossal difficulty finding someone who could VFX bricks in motion capture when we had no way of tracking. So the tracking of those bricks was really difficult VFX.
So the dog actually pulled a few less bricks than the bricks that the dog is pulling in the film.
Dog pulled virtually no bricks. And
okay, all right.
and Caleb didn't actually like pulling, so we had to have a stunt dog do the pulling.
Oh, wow.
And Caleb is a dude dog, and the stunt dog was a female, and she did all the heavy lifting for the film, so that just needed a little bit of
wow. So that mirrors life a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah, I guess my big question for you now, Rob, is you've done one film. Now what do you do? Sleep. Okay.
No,
but I'm sure you are now thinking like, okay, well, I got to do something. I got this creative, you have a creative kind of fire inside of you, and you are multi-talented, and you're like the quadruple threat that I was saying earlier. You produce and you direct and you act and you write. So, what do you think? What do you want to do?
I want to make another film, Blake. I want to make another film, I think in next summer, probably. Just question, would you guys be up for cutting another trailer?
Yes. We'll always cut a trailer for you anytime.
Okay, right. Yeah, but hopefully another film next year.
We film stuff too.
Feature films? You guys do feature films?
Heck yeah. We do anything. Just tell us where to show up.
Wait, do you really do feature films?
Sure.
Huh.
We absolutely could.
Okay.
Hey, let's make a deal. We don't have to do it on live TV, but
Okay, great.
no, that's awesome. So you're thinking about starting next summer. Are you writing now or?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take I have something halfway written, but I'm going to take a couple weeks and just chill and then go back to it, I think. Yeah.
So we're a creative agency. Where do you what do you do to inspire yourself? Where does your creativity come from? If you're not feeling particularly kind of, I don't know, well, creative in that moment, what do you do?
I just kind of do. I mean, I don't really have to try to find the desire to do it, right? Like I just track with the desire to do it. I read somewhere that I think, 90% of successful actors came from divorced homes, and many more actors come from backgrounds that were challenging. And I think there's something that happens kind of in the creative arts sometimes that the drive to succeed is an unconscious drive to have an internal void or a sense of it, like sadness or something, get filled by external adoration. And I think that has a really positive quality.
Rob, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me so directly, but okay.
Yeah. No, but that's beautiful. I mean, it's like it has this wonderful quality to it that can instill a drive. And then I think part of the artist's, aspiration is to find a way for that ultimately that void or whatever to get filled internally. And then it just becomes a skill set to turn on when you want it and to turn off when you don't. And I think, for me, I have no problem getting motivated for something that I care about. And, anything in the art world is just something I care about very much.
Wow. Rob, you're inspiring me to be more creative. We do have a question from Aisha. What was your writing process like? Did you have to combat writer's block? And if so, do you have any tips?
Writing process was, I'm usually pretty good at getting first drafts out. So I sat down and I wrote a short version of the film. Like I knew where I wanted it to end and I knew where I wanted it to start. And then I just wrote a way to kind of get there that felt intuitively good. And I did that in a weekend, and then it was like a year of editing. The process for me was to get the content out first, like make sure I had the sort of logical part of it sequenced, and then to go through and feel my way through kind of the wording of it and the imagery of the script, to communicate in a more dense emotional way what was happening. So for me, it would be like do a draft try to get a draft done as quickly as possible and just get it out, and then kind of go through the refining process.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Sorry, you and then write the thing.
And write the thing. And I'd written a couple of books in college that were kind of nonpartisan political.
Hold on, wait. You wrote a couple of books in college?
Yeah, we did. A friend and I put out a nonpartisan.
I just wrote a couple books in college. No big deal.
No, it was a cool thing. But we did a nonpartisan political anthology collecting stories by college kids across the country, writing on political issues. And then we did like the whole media circuits around CNN and C-SPAN's Book TV and all that. And so I knew how to write, kind of like I knew how to get the story out, but I didn't know screenwriting. And so I called friends that I knew who knew screenwriting and would solicit their feedback too on with the script. One thing that I learned that was really important for me was, you could just describe the action, but that can get really kind of emotionally meh if your entire script is like that. So you want to find imagery, I could write my character Matt walks out of the jail and he's ragged and his clothes are frayed and he's just looks unhealthy and blah blah blah. Or you could be he exits and he looks like alcohol smells, and that just captures what a whole bunch of words would take a lot longer to describe. And so kind of thinking in imagery was something that I learned more in screenwriting that was really helpful too.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And Matt did look like alcohol smelled at certain points in that film, I will say.
Yeah.
We have some more questions coming in live here.
Hi, I'm Britt.
Hi, Britt.
I'm wondering if you can tell us if there is a specific trait that helped you get through the whole process. You know, like I'm inspired by this Arnold Schwartz doc that I just watched.
Great.
And, you know, certain themes that he talks about are like resonating with me, you know, like early to bed, early to rise. So do you have a little mantra or anything that could help us?
First of all, I freaking love that documentary so much. It's so good. He also has these like weird motivational, they're not weird, they're just really cool motivational things. Like you were saying, like the early to bed, like he has so many of those that I love. And I love listening to those when I'm running. Side note. But I think, you know.
Wait, he runs too? He's a runner as well. What doesn't this guy do? Sorry. It just keeps getting, it's just more and more and more.
Are you just trying to make me like blush on camera? All right.
Yes.
No, it's I've never run into so far in my life like a problem that couldn't be solved somehow. Like there wasn't a way to work around it. And so I think one of the things that I brought to the film and that I think I carry with me generally in my life is that if there's a problem, there's a way to figure out how to solve it. And so we had, you know, probably 50 scenarios come up in the course of the filming where it would have been pretty easy to just quit. And it would have been pretty easy to say, yeah, that's not really surmountable, but you just troubleshoot it. I mean, we just kept like, you just work the problem incrementally, the most immediate problem, and then the next problem, and then the next problem. And you just trust that there's a kind of faith almost that you can figure it out. And so for me, that was probably the most important thing that I brought was a belief that was doable, that there's always a way to do it.
Yeah, we're pretty firm believers in trying to concentrate on the solutions at Diagonal as well. We have a question from Aisha and Aaron.
Yes. Hi, I'm Aaron. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Aaron.
Kind of back to the writing side of things. Do you have any tips for how to differentiate character dialogue?
You know, for me, one way that I would do that, right? Like when I'm acting, I don't really believe in acting. Like I kind of believe that we bring a part of ourselves forward for, you know, in service of whoever this person is in the imaginary circumstance. So it's like in playing the character I'm playing here, I would focus a lot on, like, I know what it's like to feel abandoned or wounded or like as an outsider. And I would put a ton of my attention on that part of me and then relate to the world from that place. And these organic, spontaneous reactions would come up. I'm walking down the street from this place, someone doesn't make eye contact with me, and I have a strong impulse, like, who does this person think they are, to ignore me, right? This, like, I'm the center of the universe, why are they not paying attention to me? And what would come up would be very different than how I would be in my everyday life, you know? And so one thing that I would do is I would almost meditate on these different parts of me, and I would meditate on what brings me joy, what brings, you know, elicits rage or love or terror, and then kind of write from those places, depending on the character's sort of background. And I would just, you know, do my best to move into their imaginary circumstance and then write. But for me in writing, I would start, just personally, I would start by writing the idea that I think, like who this person was more literally, and then I would move, once I have a kind of sense of who this character is, then I would go through and just drop into kind of who they are in my imagination and then write from that place. But that's really difficult because, right, most of my characters have some voice of me in there. So that's, yeah.
Rob, I guess my final question for you is, the film is called The Year of the Dog.
Yeah.
And so what led you to that title?
I think it's just kind of a simple, you know, I thought it rounded out it was a nice way to end the story. And it was, I guess the deeper part would be that it's a metaphor for the way that dogs can live kind of in the moment. Like they have the ability to meet us where we're at, and they tend to be living kind of moment by moment by moment. And maybe in some senses, every year and every moment should be the year of the dog for that reason.
I mean, he's a very deep guy. I knew there was a deeper meaning to it.
Yeah, I didn't know that, Blake.
Rob, you know, we want people to see the film. We're gonna be sharing this out. We'll pop your social handles up right now, and we'll pop up a place that the website for the Year of the Dog movie is.
Oh, yeah, the Year of the Dog movie.com.
I knew that. And yeardogmovie.com, and you can find it on Prime. And you know, it's a beautiful film. It's really well done, well directed, well acted, well written. The dog is fantastic as well. You lucked out there, I think, with a really great animal. It's such a lovely kind of soul. And your cast is awesome too. And your technical team was great. So bravo to you. And you know, you're definitely a member of the in crowd. So thanks for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right. We'll see you next time.